As we gather for today's event, we acknowledge that the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater exists today on the traditional lands of many diverse Native people, including the Ho-Chunk, Potawatomi, Ojibwa, and Odawa. We welcome and are honored by the responsibility to be good stewards of these lands and good neighbors to all Wisconsin indigenous populations. We recognize these great Native nations and their respective sovereignties and are thankful to be positioned in such prominent, historic, and meaningful landscapes as we continue to provide educational opportunities for all. Please welcome University of Wisconsin-Whitewater Interim Chancellor John Chenoweth.
Good morning. How is everyone? Fabulous? Wonderful? It's like WebEx, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah, okay, good. Fabulous. Well, welcome. I hope you all had a relaxing and restful summer, or at least a day or two in the summer to be rested and relaxed. Found some time at a beach, a lake, the mountain, in your hammock, on the back porch, wherever. It's really important to spend time away. So hopefully you all spent some time away, got to spend time with your family and friends as well. We're excited today to run through some presentations, celebrate past achievements, talk about progress we've made, and then do some planning for the current semester and academic year. Before we get started, it's our tradition that we recognize members of the Warhawk family who have passed since we last gathered. Earlier this summer, Derek Gray, a psychology major and member of the Warhawk men's basketball team, passed away unexpectedly on July 24th. And Kevin White, who was majoring in economics, passed away due to a car accident on August 16th. I ask that you please join me and stand as you are able for a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. Before classes have begun, we've already welcomed a number of new faces to the university, and later in the program, we'll recognize these members of our university community. One person, who is a familiar face to many of you, has returned to UW-Whitewater and is now serving as the Chief of Staff and Legislative Liaison for the Chancellor's Office. I'm thrilled to welcome him aboard. Jim Disrood is a trusted and respected member of our community with 13 years of experience as a higher ed administrator, instructor, and advisor. This is day number 6 on the job for him, and I'm putting him to work as MC of today's event. Please join me in welcoming Jim Disrood.
Good morning and welcome everyone, and it is an honor to start the new academic year with you. We know that every new year at UW-Whitewater is a landmark in somebody's lifespan. It might be the student's first year in college, or this might be the year they earn that degree. For some of you, this is your first year on campus as a new employee, and for some of you, it's your 40th year on campus. We have a number of individuals who have reached significant milestones as employees, and it is my pleasure to assist the Chancellor in congratulating them. Each honoree will receive a Years of Service pin, and for those who have reached their 25th anniversary, the UW-Whitewater Foundation allows those employees to select either a captain's chair or a rocking chair. Today, we honor those who continue to serve our campus, and we acknowledge their years of service.
Who are in attendance today, please stand as you are able so we congratulate you with our applause. "15 years of service. Will those honorees who are in attendance today please stand as you are able so we can congratulate you with our applause.
We have a group of individuals who have accumulated 20 years or more of service. Will you please join us on stage so we can acknowledge those in attendance? And we also ask if everyone can please hold their applause until all of these honorees' names have been called.
Beth Benuso, 20 years of service.
Thank you.
Carol Elson,
Thank you.
20 years of service. Elena Pocat, 20 years of service. Don Wozniak, 30 years of service. Brenda O'Byrne, 40 years of service.
Next, we honor our University Award recipients. Will they please join me on stage so we can acknowledge those in attendance today?
The recipients are John Werner, Professor of Management, W.P. Roseman Excellence in Teaching Award. Kristen Prock, Assistant Professor of Social Work, Outstanding Research Award. John Fry, Associate Professor of Geography, Geology, and Environmental Science, Everett and Ellen Long Award for the Advancement of General Education. Pilar Melero, Professor of Languages and Literatures, Faculty Service Award. Nadine Kriska, Lecturer of Biology, Excellence Award for Instructional Academic Staff. Aaron Axelson, Learning Technology Center Operations Manager, Excellence Award for Academic Staff. Yao Fu, Assistant Professor of Curriculum and Instruction, University Faculty Staff Academic Advising Award. And Elizabeth Lamb, Department of Languages and Literatures, University Staff Excellence Award.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Two of our colleagues have received prestigious recognition as top leaders in Southeast Wisconsin. This is an impressive accomplishment and honors the outstanding work of these individuals.
The winners are Robin Fox, Interim Provost, Notable LGBTQ+ Executive, Milwaukee Biz Times Magazine, and our Tanya Wesley, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Mentor, Woman of Influence, Milwaukee Business Journal.
One of the 6 values of our university is shared governance. Today we acknowledge our governance leaders. Through their leadership and those who serve with them, we are a stronger university. Effective shared governance results in collaboration and provides the opportunity to make the best decisions possible that support our university.
Our governance leaders are Tracy Hawkins, Chair of the Faculty Senate, Christine Hoover, Chair of the Academic Staff Assembly, Jackie Pelsick, Chair of the University Staff Council, and Will Hins, President of Whitewater Student Government.
Next up, we would like to recognize the members of the Chancellor's Cabinet who are in attendance today. Who are entering the stage now.
Robin Fox, Interim Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Brenda Jones, Vice Chancellor for Administrative Affairs. Our Tanya Wesley, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. Katie Kuznasik, Interim Vice Chancellor for University Relations. Ryan Callahan, Director of Athletics. Tricia Clayson, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of the College of Integrated Studies, Rock County Campus. Katie Casey, Interim Chief of Institutional Research and Planning. Ann Stadler, Chief Marketing Officer. And Jim Disrud, Chief of Staff and Legislative Liaison.
Let's thank our cabinet members.
Well done.
Now I'd like to welcome back to the podium Dr. Chenoweth for special recognitions.
UW-Whitewater is a premier academic institution that is driven by the pursuit of knowledge, powered by a spirit of innovation, and focused on transforming lives. This mission is only possible because of you, our dedicated employees. Today, I would like to welcome our newest employees to the Warhawk family. Thank you for choosing to join us for the next chapter of your life, and we are thrilled to have you here. If you are a new employee in 2022, please stand as you are able so we can thank you with your applause and our applause. Over the past 2.5 years, the COVID-19 pandemic pushed the university to operate in different ways in order to be successful. It required the participation and commitment of faculty, staff, and students to take every step possible to stay healthy and to protect one another. From classroom learning to athletics to student organizations, the challenges were many, but we persevered as a Warhawk family to carry out our academic mission and serve the greater community. Leading our efforts was a group of dedicated and passionate individuals we got to know as the EOC, or Emergency Operations Committee. I'd like those members in attendance to stand, please. And stay standing. Oh, we're not quite done recognizing you yet. You'll need to stand a little longer. This team performed outstanding work. Yeah, all of you that are on it. Yeah, I see Jeff Angelari standing in the back, so that's good. Yep. This team performed outstanding work above and beyond their regular job duties during one of the most difficult and challenging times in our university's history. They organized testing and vaccination clinics, tracked complicated data, secured funding and resources, strategized our communications, and made thoughtful recommendations to leadership throughout the ever-changing nature of the pandemic. This was a Herculean task. I'd like us all to reflect a little bit back 2.5 years into our own lives and the decisions that we had to make personally about keeping our families safe, whether we'd go see our grandparents, whether we'd go see our grandkids, whether we'd go to a wedding, not go to a wedding, whether our schools were making the right decisions or not. And think about that experience that we all individually faced. And then these folks took on, in addition to that work, thinking about how to keep the rest of us safe. Listening to thousands of stakeholders, knowing that the recommendations and the decisions they made would not be appreciated by everyone at the time. But as we think back on that, I think we all know how much it meant to this campus to have these people doing this work. So please, one more time, thank them as we can.
All right, thank you, Chancellor, and thank you once again to the EOC members. As we look ahead to the new academic year, a number of important university-wide initiatives are well underway. One initiative that will come more into focus now is accreditation. Our campuses are working to prepare materials to reaffirm our accreditation with the Higher Learning Commission, or HLC. Joining us to talk about this vital venture is Katie Casey, Director of Academic Assessment and Interim Chief of Institutional Research.
Good morning, everybody. As Jim said, we have been hard at work this past academic year preparing our institution's 10th year report to maintain accreditation with the Higher Learning Commission, HLC. A dedicated project management team and leaders across campus, many of which who are in this room, prepare our insurance argument addressing 5 criteria by which our institution will be measured. Those criteria are: first, our mission statement; second, ethical and responsible conduct; Third, the quality and resources and support related to teaching and learning. Fourth, how we evaluate and improve student learning through our assessment systems. And finally, our institutional effectiveness, resources, and planning. The assurance review is in its final stages and will be uploaded by September 5th, which is our lockdown date for HLC. The 10th year report is informed by additional work that's been completed over the past couple years, including our federal compliance report, which demonstrates our fulfillment of Title IV program responsibilities. And last spring, HLC administered a student opinion survey, which went out to all our students on our campus, and that was critical to informing the report that we are preparing for September 5th. Looking forward, we are going to be hosting an HLC-appointed and UWW-approved peer review team to both our Main and Rock campuses, and that will be on October 3rd and 4th. More information about this visit will be available as that date approaches at the HLC website, which you can find off the Chancellor's page and is also noted here on this slide. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the leaders of this work. The project management team, Andrea Edney, Kim Koska, Susie Feuerstein, have been critical in completing our assurance argument, compiling the necessary resources, and keeping us all on track. The criteria I alluded to before were led by criterion team leaders, Deans Goza, Clayson, Hayes, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Artania Wesley, Associate Vice Chancellor, Kristen Plessel, Interim Provost Robin Fox, Interim Chancellor John Chenoweth, Interim Vice Chancellor for Administrative Affairs Jeff Arnold, and Chief of Institutional Research and Planning Lindsay Schwarbo. They gave extra time, knowledge, and a commitment to this process, without which we would not be at this point. Thank you.
Thanks again, Katie. As you all know, we are in the midst of the critical search to recruit and to hire the 18th Chancellor of UW-Whitewater. To provide an update on the search and how you can participate in the process, we are now joined by Lynn Gilbertson, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. Lynn is serving as the Vice Chair for the Chancellor Search and Screen Committee.
Good morning. On behalf of the chair of the UW-Whitewater Chancellor Search, Regent Vice President Amy Bogost, and myself as Vice Chair of the Search and Screen Committee, we would like to provide you with a brief update regarding the search. You can find information and updates regarding the Chancellor Search on the UW-Whitewater Chancellor Search website. This website includes information on the full UW-Whitewater leadership profile and position description, the composition of the Search and Screen Committee, and other information and updates on the search. During the months of August and September, everyone on campus is being asked to provide their insights to a number of questions related to the experiences, qualities, and skills desired in the next UW-Whitewater Chancellor, either via a fall forum or scheduled unit meeting or during a listening session in early September. Note that the 2 public listening sessions in early September will be open to anyone who is able to attend, including community members. The listening sessions are scheduled for Monday, September 12th from 2 to 3 p.m. in Highland Hall 1000, Timmerman Auditorium, and on Tuesday, September 13th from 5 to 6 p.m. in the same location. These sessions can also be attended virtually. All feedback received from these forums and listening sessions will be compiled and shared with the entire search committee for their use in this recruitment process. Details on the September listening sessions will be posted soon on the UW-Whitewater Chancellor Search website. Finally, the Search and Screen Committee members are on track to conduct preliminary interviews in late October, with the goal of having finalists visit UW-Whitewater in December before winter commencement. I look forward to serving you in this role and encourage you to engage in this process as much as you are able. Thank you.
Thank you again, Lynn. Earlier this year, UW-Whitewater started 3 initiatives to grow and maintain enrollment to champion diversity and opportunity, and also to keep student success at the forefront of our mission, and to support the health and well-being of the Warhawk family. Thanks to the efforts and dedication of these colleagues across the Whitewater and the Rock County campuses, work has commenced to put these into action. First, we'll hear from our Tanya Wesley, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, who will provide an update on African American student recruitment and retention.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all this morning. As Jim stated, I'll be providing a brief, high-level overview of the task force and the work that we have begun to embark on. The task force is charged with examining the life cycle of African American students at UW-Whitewater and the Rock County campus, from recruitment and enrollment to graduating and becoming alumni. We want to identify the best practices that support African American students' overall experience and connection to our institution. The task force is using the two prongs of recruitment and retention to collect data and guide our work. The recruitment prong is examining the strategic recruitment initiatives of our institution. The topics that fall under this prong include, but are not limited to, identifying recruitment strategies specifically for African American students and examining how culturally inclusive those strategies are. Examining UW-Whitewater, as well as Rock County's current reputation and relationships within Black communities and how we are marketing ourselves to the Black communities across the Southeast region of the state. We are also identifying key external stakeholders who have current connection to our campuses, and also identifying some of the other non-traditional ways to get connected to prospective students, such as predominantly Black churches, grassroots organizations, Boys and Girls Club, as well as nonprofit organizations. The retention is the second prong that focuses on examining the Black lived experience of African American students currently enrolled on campus. And this will include, obviously, students' experience in the classroom, how they seek out services and resources across campus, also being employed across campus, and also living in the Whitewater community. As we know, that is a critical component and important relationship between our city here as well as with our campus. This holistic approach will move the task force beyond the superficial level and dive deeper to identifying the real issues and begin to develop data-informed recommendations that promote systematic and sustainable change. This level of work is not something that will obviously be accomplished in a semester or a year, but this process, in order to reach the goal of institutional change, we want to make sure that we're thorough and those recommendations become the fabric of this campus, as well as the Rock County campus. If we can advance to the next slide, please. The task force began meeting in the late spring semester of 2022 and continued through the month of July. We held off on meeting in the month of August to give folks some time to take vacation. But during that time, we were still communicating via email to gather data and continue the work. Our plan is to make sure that we reconvene in late September. Over the course of the last months, the task force has been able to confirm their membership, purpose, and charge, and also develop our strategy and how we're going to approach this work. We have engaged in collecting preliminary data around the current resources as well as programs that are made available and support the success of our African American students on campus. We've been able to collect information on retention and enrollment data, as well as where we are recruiting our African American students from. Our group has worked together to identify individuals who are key and have maintained relationship with campus or is highly influential or well-connected in the Black community. The task force was able to develop a list of guiding questions to collect information on other stakeholders and also to add to our contact list, making sure that we can identify through that outreach possible partnerships and collaborations that we can foster and enhance. And lastly, we had presentations from our admissions office on the recruitment and admissions cycle. After each department's presentation, the task force debriefs and identifies strengths, ideas to address African American students' needs, barriers that may exist, as well as what are things that we can just do and implement right away. The information collected through the department presentations will be included in the final report to the Chancellor. Next slide, please. Our next steps. We will continue the department presentations by bringing in subject matter experts. Our next departments that are on the docket are financial aid as well as academic advising. We'll also move forward with hosting some focus groups with currently enrolled African American students. We'll pull samples of students from our student organization, Black Student Union, as well as students that may live in the resident halls, and we want to make sure that we're able to grab students that may be attending Rock County campus, as well as our non-traditional students. We'll also be holding meetings with our external stakeholders so we can build those relationships and pick their brains. They may have perspectives and ideas that will really help support our work. And lastly, we will also engage with our students who have withdrawn from school so we can gather and gain a better understanding of what particular things that may have impacted or influenced their reason for not continuing with us. So that is all regarding the update for our African American Task Force. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Artania. I would now like to invite Pilar Malero, Professor of Languages and Literatures, to discuss our efforts regarding Hispanic, Latinx student recruitment and retention.
Good morning. It's great to see everybody here as we start this new semester. Before I start talking about what we are doing, I'd like to give you a little bit of history of recruitment of Latinx students here at UW-Whitewater. When researchers examine existing programs for Latinx students in the country, they call UW-Whitewater. Because in the 1970s, we already had a Chicano Studies department and an African American Studies department. We were some of the first in the nation to have that. And that happened because, yes. So we need to promote that history and we need to honor that history. And that happened because students actually were activists and asked for these departments, and they also asked for Latinx and African American faculty. And as a student in 1984, I had the pleasure of working with those founding faculty here at UW-Whitewater. And so I'm very, very happy to know that history and to be able to share that history with our students. We are not new to UW-Whitewater. We have a history here, and we love this campus. And so I've been tasked with chairing the Hispanic, Latinx, Latino, Latina Task Force, and examine ways to recruit, retain, and graduate Hispanic, Latinx, Latino, Latina students. And that's what I'm working with a group. We formed two groups to work on this. One is the Hispanic Latinx Task Force, the actual committee. And then we gather a group of, identify a group of other faculty with expertise in recruitment, teaching, anything related to Latinx. So we have this small group and we have this larger working group that helps us by offering their expertise. And so that was the beginning of our task force. We identified the tasks, and they're very similar to what Dr. Wesley has identified. We are looking at enrollment trends and determining what is happening there, who is enrolling, when, where, why, and how. And we are making an inventory of existing programs designed to assist Latinx, Latino, Latina, Hispanic students. And I'm using all these terms because that is part of the strategy, right? With the Hispanic and Latinx students, we have a lot of ways to identify ourselves, and so I want to make sure that even the terminology is inclusive. We have to start there, right? Somebody may call themselves Hispanic, somebody will call themselves Latinx, somebody says, I'm Latino, right? That's fine. So that's why I'm using all these terms. So we're making an inventory of existing programs designed to assist and the students. And we've been surveying students. Students have already mentioned the work of McNair scholars, the King Chavez, and all those initiatives that are there to help them and to guide them. So that's one of the first things that we did. We're also making an inventory of existing programs designed to assist Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, Latina students at similar universities, and at universities where they have been more successful than we have, so that we can see what is it that we have, what is it that we need as we reach out to the Latino Hispanic population. We are also examining best practices, HIP impact, and both existing and also asking our students, what is it that we're lacking, right? And again, King Chavez has been identified, the pre-college programs, McNair scholars, those are the things that our students are telling us, this is what helped me, right? And of course, very engaged faculty and staff is also very helpful. We are canvassing past, current, future students, as well as students who also left the university, both through surveys and through focus groups. We also would like to speak to parents about their experience and their wishes. With the Latino community, contact with parents is very important. It's culturally inclusive to include the parents in the process. This summer alone, I got letters from a parent in Mexico saying, my kid is going to your university, can you look after them? And just last weekend, my mom called me. She said, so-and-so's daughter is going to the university. Can you please look after her? They contact me personally, and they contact, I'm sure, other people that they know. So parent involvement is very important. I've had parents who have come to the university and asked for a personal tour with their son or daughter, and they want me to do it because I speak Spanish, because they feel comfortable, and also because, they can ask me things like, where is my kid going to eat? That's important to parents. So that's part of the culture. So we need to speak to not only students, but also to their parents to see what their experiences, what they're expecting and what they wish for their children here at UW-Whitewater. We are doing this in two manners. We convened the task force in late spring, and we developed questions, a set of questions. We have 29 questions that we are asking the different students, and we developed the questions. And this summer, we send out some surveys to students who have graduated, and I call them students who have graduated and are living their best lives. They are assistant district attorneys in Cook County. They are doing refugee work in Tanzania. These are our students, and so we've been talking to them, and I sent out surveys to them, and they're coming back, and so we'll be looking at those surveys as we reconvene in the fall. And we will also be conducting focus groups with the existing students who are here at UW-Whitewater, with students who are thinking of coming to Whitewater with their parents, and also with students, both students who left and came back. And we do have a set of students who have done that, and also students who left and never came back. We want to know what is it that happened there. And so that's where we are. Speaking to all the students, we have already gotten some other outcomes that were sort of unexpected, but they're very welcome. Our graduates have expressed to us their interest in mentoring other students, because they said that would have been very helpful for them. That was very helpful for some of them, and they also feel that more mentoring could happen. So they have told me, we can set up an advisory board. We would like to mentor students in the future. And they have also mentioned the idea of possibly establishing some kind of scholarship for Latino, Latina, Latinx, Hispanic students. I was told by somebody that that's no longer possible, that we cannot target scholarships like that, so we're working on ways of doing that. But that's another thing that they have mentioned so far, that that one of the main issues attending the university was financial. And so they would like to not only help bring in money, but they also would like to help mentor students about that too. You know, someone mentioned something like, if somebody had told me, don't take out all those loans, you don't need them, right? So very practical information. So those are some bits and pieces of things that are coming back. So those are other outcomes, and we're really excited to continue with that. Like the other task force, we met in July and June. We did not meet in August, but we'll meet again very soon, late September. And we'll continue collecting survey results. So next steps, we will continue collecting survey results. We'll convene the focus groups with the Hispanic, Latinx, Latino, Latina students currently attending UW-Whitewater. We would like to have a conversation with parents of current students and students seeking to enroll at UW-Whitewater. You know, one of the events that students have also identified as very helpful is the Llave event, which is an event that brings students and their parents to campus, and they do all kinds of information in Spanish, and students have identified that as very helpful. So hopefully we can team up with them and get some information there too. So we are just beginning the process, and we have a lot of work to do, but we believe we are ready. We have a good task force team and also an excellent working group, and we are looking forward to working on this this year and as long as necessary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pilar. In support of well-being and mental health for our students, our faculty, and our staff, UW-Whitewater is joining the nationwide effort of the JED Foundation. Here to speak on this topic is Counseling Services Director Veronica Warren.
Good morning, everyone. Interim Provost Robin Fox and I serve as your co-chairs for this initiative, along with 30 other representatives across various departments on this campus. In June of 2021, Dr. Wesley and I had an opportunity to meet with the Warhawk student government. They were concerned not only about the mental health of students, but wondered if all departments on campus outside of UACS had the support they needed to help navigate the tough challenges students face. We shared with them about the JED Campus program, which is an extension of JED Foundation, the nation's leading nonprofit dedicated to young adult mental health. The Stadau family founded it in memory of their 20-year-old son, Jed, who died by suicide in 1998 on the campus of the University of Arizona. The JED Campus program is a 4-year collaboration with partnership with them that assists campuses in developing a comprehensive approach to mental health promotion, suicide prevention, and substance misuse among students. In addition, JED understands the vital role faculty and staff play in the lives of students, and that their mental health is just as important as the students. Our chancellor at the time, Jim Henderson, and Provost John Chenoweth adamantly agreed that they wanted to be able to also support the faculty and staff. Chancellor Chenoweth has continued this campus initiative to ensure that we are committed to providing the proper systems, strategies, programs, and support to our Warhawk family. The task force met in late spring and began the work of completing a baseline assessment that would inform the University of Michigan Healthy Minds team, as well as the JED campus, in support of our strategic plan. Student, faculty, and staff will have an opportunity to take the Healthy Minds survey to begin processing of information that will help us create that strategic plan on supporting mental health. Everyone will receive an email from Healthy Minds UWW@umich.edu in September, which will include a link for you to take the survey. The survey will be available for 3 weeks. The student survey includes modules on demographics, mental health status, and mental health service utilization, support, and help-seeking behavior. The faculty and staff modules focus on demographic, faculty and staff well-being, mental health service utilization, support and help-seeking, supporting students, and campus climate. Both surveys will take around about 20 minutes to fill out. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered into one of 2 drawings. 60 students will have an opportunity to receive one $25 gift card to either the UW bookstore, Amazon, or Walmart, and 2 faculty or staff will receive an annual UWW parking permit. We create, yes. We want to create a robust strategic plan that encapsulates everyone's feedback, but the only way to do so is to have everyone committed to taking the Healthy Mind survey. We are asking faculty to encourage students to take this survey. We are asking supervisors to encourage your staff to take the survey. This encouragement can include offering them an opportunity while taking the survey in class and/or while they're at work. We need as many students, staff, and faculty as possible to take this to ensure we are providing the best support across our campus for the Warhawk family. We accomplish so many phenomenal things on this campus, and we want to increase our support of mental health so every Warhawk can thrive. Help us make this campus better and safer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Veronica. It goes without saying that the well-being and the safety of our students, faculty, and staff members are amongst the highest priorities of the university. That includes being proactive in supporting our processes, which surround sexual violence and sexual harassment. To talk more about these efforts, we welcome Whitewater Student Government President Will Hins.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate the energy. So, Whitewater Student Government passed legislation last semester to have a summit here at UW-Whitewater to address sexual assault misconduct. The planning for this summit was taking place over the course of the summer with partners from across campus as well as community members. The first day of the summit, which will be October 7th at 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., will include presentations that will have a variety of topics around local, state, federal, as well as on campus and the happenings around sexual assault. This information will be recorded so that all campus community members are able to see it, which is incredibly important to us. 2 weeks later, we're going to have another meeting on October 2nd. In terms of this will be a smaller group to be able to develop a plan for the chancellor as well as the community so we can really combat this as a unit. So that information will then be shared by November 1st for the greater community to be able to all together have an understanding of how we're going to move forward. Thank you so much, and we're very much looking forward to the work together.
In concert with the efforts that we have discussed and to chart our future, it's essential that we fully engage in the practice of strategic planning. One of the defining qualities of this year will be a university-wide collaboration with this process. It's important that everyone has input. To discuss the steps and timeline, we welcome Matt Winden, Associate Professor of Economics and Co-Chair of the Strategic Planning Process.
Hello, fellow Warhawks. As you may know, our current campus strategic plan will end this year. Katie Casey and myself have been asked to co-chair the strategic planning process for our next 5-year plan, which will run from 2023 to 2028. We began that process this past summer with a review of our last campus strategic plan, the plans of individual administrative units on campus, and plans from other campuses. We also began structuring the framework which will gather input to inform our upcoming strategic plan. That framework starts this fall with a series of open forums designed to gather input from campus faculty, staff, and students, as well as external stakeholders. Information obtained from the open forums will be used to identify important themes which will help to guide the university's direction over the next 5 years. During winter and spring, expert teams will be assembled to craft goals related to each theme, as well as concrete action items which can be implemented to achieve these goals. The draft strategic plan will be comprised of these themes, goals, and action items, which will then be iteratively disseminated for additional feedback prior to being finalized. Beginning implementation of the strategic plan is scheduled for summer of 2023. The most important element of an effective strategic plan is the input received from the stakeholders involved. As such, multiple open forums have been arranged in September on different days and times to obtain feedback from the widest array of individuals possible. 4 open forums will be held on the main campus and 2 on the Rock campus. 2 additional forums will be held specifically for students, one face-to-face and another virtual to accommodate distance learning and online students. A separate open forum will be focused on external stakeholders. Registration for these events is now open and is accompanied by a short 5-minute survey which will be used to gather information to direct the conversations during the open forums. For administrative unit heads and supervisors, please encourage your staff to attend one of these sessions and allow them the time to do so. It is important to ensure all voices are heard regarding the direction of our great university over the next 5 years. Last, information regarding the strategic planning process, including the open forum dates, times, and locations, is available through our campus strategic planning website, which is on the screen. Please check back often for updates and additional information. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at the open forums.
All right, thank you, Matt. Now I would like to welcome back Chancellor John Chenoweth for today's keynote message.
Thanks, Jim. All right, we are going to talk about all sorts of stuff this morning. What I want to do is provide you some updates on some data, some information we have to help you understand where we are as an institution, and then talk a little bit about where we're headed. So we could start with the first slide and focus on our enrollment. We spent lots of time for the past few years looking at what our enrollment looks like. Right here you see a picture of our incoming freshman class. You may recall last year we brought in the largest class we had in 4 years. This year you see we are projecting that we will outdo that. So we should see the largest class we've had in 5 years. Of course, all the data you see is projections. That's my little caveat. We do all of our capturing of data on the 10th day. So for students in the room, please show up on the 10th day. That's an important day to be there. Probably all the other days are important too. But overall enrollment, though, if you look at our overall enrollment picture, as you all know, this is in line with our projections from last year. While our incoming classes are larger, we're still seeing some declines in our overall enrollment. Our graduate enrollment is going up. But currently, our on-campus or our traditional undergraduate enrollment is still declining. Now you ask yourselves, well, if we've seen 2 years of incoming larger classes, why then do we keep seeing a decrease in our undergraduate enrollment? There's really 2 reasons, one that we can't do a whole lot about and one that we can. So the first is that our senior and junior level classes are declining. They're still from a period of time where we had declining incoming classes. So naturally, our junior and senior classes are smaller than the classes that we brought in the year before. Okay? But for our freshmen and sophomores, well, for our sophomores this year in particular, we have a challenge around our retention rate. So our retention rate, our peak retention rate was about 5 years ago. That was 82.2%. We generally sit between about 78 and 81. That's kind of our normal range for a while now. Obviously, during COVID, we saw a decline in the retention rate. It was expected. We knew we were losing students as we started the year. We knew we were losing students in the spring semester. Okay? But this year, our retention rate on the Whitewater campus is actually currently sits lower than it did last year. Okay? We sort of knew we would lose students. We saw them leave from fall to spring. But this is an area where we have to spend a lot more attention. If we can continue to bring in the large freshman classes, our first-time, full-time cohort classes, and then boost our retention rate back into a normal range. Don't need to get to a peak range, but if we can get a normal range, we'll see increases in our overall enrollment again. The picture at Rock County is very similar. The scale is just a little bit different, but it is unique. At Rock County, of course, we only bring in students for generally at most 2 years if they're full-time students. They come in for a freshman and sophomore year and then transfer somewhere else, usually here on the Whitewater campus. But we're still seeing those declines. Now, positive news on the Rock County campus is they are outperforming their retention rate from last year significantly. So they're retaining their freshman students into their sophomore year significantly more than we are on the Whitewater campus. Not more than on the Whitewater campus, but relative to the retention rates in the past, more. So I think there's some opportunities there to learn about what we might do to improve our retention rate. If we move on then to another topic we've spent way too much time on, the budget. So my goals relative to the budget, our goals for the past few years relative to the budget are to be transparent. We want to make sure you have all the information you need to understand where we are with the budget. Okay? That's both the big picture numbers as well as I want to make sure that we're transparent around the complexity of our budget. We have a very large budget, we have a very complex budget, and so it's important that we're transparent not only what sort of the end numbers look like, but what are all the internal and external factors that can change that picture. And so we'll continue to work to do that, and then to build confidence that people actually know what our budget situation is, that the people managing our budget have the tools and the understanding to manage that in ways that help us get through that. Now, we're going to go into more details later, not today, later on the budget, but I just want to make sure everyone understands the big picture. The big picture is this: we have a budget gap. Remember, a budget is something you submit. We submit a bunch of expenses and a bunch of revenue, say this is what we anticipate this to operate at. Within that, we have a budget gap. Okay? That budget gap is not small. It's not large enough to panic about. It's known. We know exactly what it is, and we can work to solve it. That gap is filled then with cash reserves. So we carry over cash from year to year. We like to have a certain amount of cash on hand to get through things like COVID pandemics and those sorts of things. But we know right up front we're going to take a portion of those reserves and apply them to the budget gap. Okay? So we know that's going on. Okay? That's our situation. We don't anticipate going through any large-scale budget-cutting scenarios this year, so you can breathe a little better. Okay? But that is our situation. It's just important that we all know that that's where we are. All right. Now, with that, we do have reserves, okay? And we have had some extra cash come in from system towards the end of last year. And so it's important that as we make these decisions about how we deal with our budget, that we continue to focus on our vision and our values. Okay? So it's important to make sure that we know where we're trying to get to. Okay? And so all the decisions we make around this will be focused on where we've articulated that we are headed, and that is to be a national and international leader. Okay? And then we make those decisions based on our values. And so with that in mind, as we listen to our shared governance groups, listen to our employees, listen to our students last year, we made commitments around our reserves and around our budget. And so what I want to do is to run through a few of those. So first, if we look at things that we've done relative to our commitment to our employees. As we've received money, as we've looked at our budget situation, we've balanced how many reserves we need, where we need to apply them. We have made a tremendous commitment and investment in our employees. In the spring, we gave out appreciation payments. Every single employee at that time received an additional stipend. Okay? We know that you took some large cuts in prior years, and we know that doesn't make up for it. But it was important for us to take that money we were getting that had built up our reserves through the actions that you took and give that back to you. We've invested in professional development, so all of our employees have access to professional development resources. You have actual funds to use for professional development. We also hired back into a position for someone to focus on professional development for the campus. Okay? And we've brought folks in like Zach Mercurio, who was here on Wednesday, to do leadership and professional development work with the entire campus. We've reinvested in faculty research. So while all of our employees have professional development dollars, our faculty also have funds available to disseminate their research. It's critical work that we do. And so they have access to funds to do that. We reinstated tuition reimbursement. We already have employees. We had employees this summer, and we have employees this fall who are utilizing that tool to develop themselves. And finally, now, and I expect an applause because I know that we had one earlier around parking. We were planning to increase, we developed a 6-year plan that would have increased parking this year by $15. On some of our categories, that was a pretty sizable percentage increase. As we looked at our resources this summer, and we were looking at the inflationary costs, and hearing in particular from our governance groups that tend to work with our employees that receive our lowest salaries, we decided to not increase parking. Okay? For our employees, that's $15,000 of a commitment. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a huge difference for some of our employees. All right, let's look at our commitment to our students. We received some additional funds towards the end of the year. We were able to invest all those funds into new financial aid for students. So we gave out about $500,000 more in financial aid. Our students saved $72,000, not each of you individually. That's a collective amount. Yeah, I know, right? Our Whitewater student government looked at the services that our students receive and the extra things that they had to pay for along the way and put together a proposal to increase those fees by a small amount, but to give all of our students access to the same level of services, whether they had the funds to afford them or not. Our prior interim chancellor, myself, we approved that proposal. The Board of Regents approved that this year, and so now our students have access to things like the Warhawk Alley, Young Auditorium, the weight room, that they otherwise would have to pay for to get access to. And so we supported that, and we supported our Whitewater student government proposal to support the summit that you just heard from Will on. We're also committed to our communities and to our alumni. So our communities, you may not realize this, but we gave out over 120,000 COVID tests in the past few years to keep this community safe. We're revisiting how we engage at the Community Engagement Center. For you old-timers, that's the old grocery store, the old Century Building, okay? For the rest of you, it's when you're wondering why there's a Whitewater sign about 2 blocks west of here, okay? That's the Community Engagement Center. And so we're going to look at ways we can engage the community more at that center, including we're going to run a lecture series there. Many of you may know we run a lecture series at Fairhaven. We're looking at peeling off pieces of that and running a lecture series at the Community Engagement Center to engage our community more in that space. For our alumni, we have begun reaching out more and more with our alumni. So we've been running alumni events. I was out in San Francisco. We were up in Delafield. We're looking at doing more and more of these alumni events. We're going to have a tent at all the football games to re-engage our alumni. Many of you know we engaged with our alumni and perhaps lots of you, if you'd all been wearing your purple shirts to Summerfest, you'd have gotten in free. So that was a sponsorship opportunity for us. And then just so you're aware, our UW-Whitewater Foundation is also undergoing strategic planning. And so it's important this year that not only as we focus on our own strategic plan, that we engage in that process as well, and that those two strategic plans are well aligned. What I'd like to do now is to give you some information that you may not know about how wonderful we are. You all know we're wonderful, but you just may not know exactly how wonderful we are. So what I have on the slide here is a few things that you may not know that we are the best at. You know we're the best at lots of stuff. This is compared to every other UW comprehensive in the state. So not including Madison and Milwaukee. Okay? We provide more total student aid than any other campus. That's federal, state, institutional aid, and scholarships. Now, I feel like we're at that time in the presentations. You know, the beginning was really exciting. A couple jokes along. We need a little audience participation. Okay? I should have brought my foam finger, and every time I ask you after I say one of these, what do you think about that? I want you to raise your finger in the air, this finger in the air, okay? And say, we're number one. So what do you think about that first one? We're number one. All right. We have more non-resident students than any other UW campus. What do you think about that? Very good. We serve more students who are underrepresented minorities than any other comprehensive campus in the state. Yes. What do you think about that? We're number one. Yes. And I'm sure you don't know this. For transfer students in the state of Wisconsin, so for transfer students that start somewhere else and then attend any of the UW comprehensives in the state, our transfer students have the highest graduation rate in 6 years of any of those, 6 or less. It's not the ones that just graduate in 6. 6 or less for everyone in the state, the highest. What do you think about that? We're number one. Yes, very good. And you may not know this, but our campus provides more students who are fully online, fully distance ed. So these are not students who are otherwise taking face-to-face classes and take one distance ed class. These are students who are fully online. We have more distance education students, and they take more credits than any of our peers. What do you think about that? We're number one. Yes. I feel like we need that. We're number one. We're number one. We're number one. We're number one. Yeah, exactly. But we do have some work to do. We are number one. Okay, but we have some work to do. So for the last part of our presentation today, what I want to do is talk about some areas where I think we need to focus our energy, okay, and to think a little deeper about. 37% of our total undergraduate student population on the Whitewater campus are first-generation students. Now, we retain first-generation students, unfortunately, at a lower rate than we retain non-first-generation students. So our freshman class percentage is even higher than that. The Rock County campus is even higher than that. Okay? And I want you to think a little bit, if you're willing to, how many of you are first-generation students or graduated from college as a first-generation students? Yeah, very good. That looked like about 37% of you to me. I'm not sure. But I was reflecting on this, and how do we, for those of us that are not first-generation students, how do we think about that, and how do we engage in these students if they're not like us, right? We don't understand where they came from. Now, of course, we don't understand where lots of our students come from. I don't understand where most of you come from, okay? Because you didn't live the same life I did. But for first-generation students, they're unique. I am not a first-generation student. My parents have graduate degrees. My sister and brother have graduate degrees. My wife has a graduate degree. My grandparents have graduate degrees. Okay? So my experience relative to coming to a campus is completely different than a first-generation student. And so I'd like you to think about what that means. And the best way for me to think about it is to think about my own kids. So my kids clearly are not first generation. I have one son who just graduated from college in May, another son who's a junior in college. Okay? They are not first generation. They have great-grandparents who went to college. Okay? So their experience walking into this is completely different. Before they ever went to college, they knew that faculty were real people. Right? They knew they had names. Right? Because they'd been to my house. They knew what deans were. They might have known what provosts and chancellors were, I'm not sure. Okay? But they knew what registrars were. And they knew what syllabi were, because we talked about those things. I went to our last summer orientation of the year was on Friday, and when I went in, there was a student sitting by themselves, and so I sat down next to her. It's both for incoming students as well as transfer students, and so I talked to her a little bit and asked her, are you a transfer? She was sitting by herself. A lot of our transfer students come by themselves because they've been through the process before. So, are you a transfer student? No. I'm starting classes in a week. Incoming freshman. Now, I didn't ask her a whole lot of more details. I had to get up on stage and give an amazing presentation. But, it's possible that she was a first-generation student. And even before she even started here, she came from a family that didn't understand necessarily the value of having a parent at summer orientation. Now, before my kids ever went to summer orientation, I could talk to them all about the stuff that was going to happen at summer orientation. Tell them what questions they should ask. When we got in the car ride home, I could ask them all the questions, all the things I needed to know. I could sit in sessions that I knew. But coming from a first-generation family, yes, lots of our first-generation students come with their parents and get that information. But here was a student who potentially, because her parents had not been to their own summer orientation, had not been to college, didn't know that. And so there was an opportunity lost there. When they sit in our classes the first day, some of our students, that's the first time they have ever soaked up what a first day of campus is like, right? And so I want us to think about that in the language used, but it's not just the first year, right? It's the sophomore year. They don't have a parent or someone else necessarily who's asked them if they're thinking about internships, if they've already registered for their classes. I know to ask my kid in October, November, what day does registration start, right? And I know to ask them the next day, did you actually register for your classes, right? But first-generation students don't necessarily have that. Lots of them do. Lots of them have mentors or have a family member who's helping them out, but lots don't. So I want us to think about that. But I think it goes even deeper than that. I think about my own kids. Again, they can, in today's day and age, text me anytime with any question about the college experience, and they know they'll get an answer that's informative, etc., right? And so that makes life easier, right? Now, my kids don't text me, so, But this is where so I think about it. I said, well, they didn't text me, so does this matter? It matters a huge deal, because this means every day that they're in college, they don't have to call me, but they know if they did call me, they would get an answer. And so think about this as we start the school year and interact with our first-generation students, is they don't necessarily have that. Which means if someone's going to provide mentorship to them, it's you and me. All right, so let's think about that as we go through. Now, the challenge is, well, yeah, but how am I going to know which ones are the first-generation students? Well, we could ask them, or I'd suggest an alternative, and that is just assume they all are. Just assume they're all first-generation students. What harm could it do to assume someone was a first-generation student and ask them if they needed help? Or explain things a little differently about what's coming up in the semester? Okay? So I'd like us, as we go through the rest of the years, to think about how we're interacting potentially with this group of students, because I think we can have a massive impact. Okay? Our first-generation students, we don't retain them as much. They don't graduate at the same rates. They tend to be often in our lower income categories, and they tend to often be underrepresented minorities. So if we can impact this one group, we can have a massive impact across the entire university. So as you engage in dialogue with your peers and colleagues these coming weeks, let's think about how we can impact that group. And finally, what I'd like to do is to focus a bit on our mission. Now, how many of you have the mission statement memorized? Yeah, good. Hopefully you have more than this memorized, because this is only the first third of the mission statement. Our mission statement doesn't even fit on one page, right? And as I've read it and reread it, okay, what seems to me is that our mission statement has a lot of information about sort of what we are, what we do. You know, as we all got in a room together, we wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything, so we added stuff. We kept adding and adding. And eventually we were so annoyed with the process, we said, that's it, we're done. Right? But I would suggest to you that our mission statement isn't our mission. Our mission statement is not our mission. Okay? What I'd have you do is to focus a little closer into our mission. I've read this over and over again, and what is our mission? So I think there's some 4 key words here about what we should be focused on. What is our purpose? What is our calling? And that is we are focused on transforming lives. Yes. And I think in particular these past 3 years or so, as we faced COVID, as we faced large budget processes and budget cuts, we faced all those challenges, I think what we did a little bit was we put our heads down. And we focused on doing the job, doing the work that had to get done, because we knew it had to get done. It felt like there were fewer people around here to do it. We were very, very busy. We had to get the work done. Our students were the same. They're busy dealing with all sorts of their own issues. Do I stay at home? Do I not go home? How is this going to work with COVID? Let me just get my classwork done. Okay? And I think what we need to do this coming year is to refocus back onto our mission. You'll notice that it doesn't say that our mission is to be focused on the budget, right? Or focused on enrollment. Okay? What it says is we should be focused on transforming lives. Now, it's easy to think about every little task we do and draw this line eventually to suggest that, oh, what I did today has an impact on this. It has I was focused on transforming lives because I did this today. What I'd ask you is, were you really focused on transforming lives? Okay? Was I focused on transforming lives as I was going through the Budget Operations Committee a year and a half ago? Or was I focused on solving the budget problem? Right? And so I think this is important work for us to do. I think as students, it's important to think about this. Many of you, I think a lot of you are residence hall assistants, yes? RAs, yeah, about 130, yes. Right, so as you go about your work, right, it's not to live in that little dorm room, that really little tiny dorm room, right, and answer a few questions when people have them and make sure they're not doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing, right? You are serving the mission of the institution, focused on transforming lives, okay? And so as we go about our work this year, that's where I think we need to refocus back on, is the work that we're doing focused on transforming lives? So I'd encourage you to engage in that dialogue with your friends and your colleagues, department meetings, unit meetings, division meetings, and think about what can we do to refocus and then get better in this space. Now, we do amazing stuff here, and so what I'd like to do here now is to show a video. For those who've been to the welcome addresses before, you know we have a video, okay? A video recaptures what we do, but I want you to know that this is a video that we show at commencement while all of the parents and family and friends of our students are getting ready to graduate. And so we celebrate and we share this good news with them. And so I'd like you to watch the video, think about the good news we're doing, and then project a little. Project a little forward and think about what can we do this year that's going to get in next year's video.
The war hunt. And that's why I'm here to celebrate with you. Are you happy to be back?
city planners like to monitor where these trees are located and what tree species they have in their cities.
Right now, field techniques are incredibly time-consuming to go from tree to tree and look at leaf to leaf. And with the use of remote sensing, we'll be able to monitor tree health more easily and in a much more timely manner.
And that can be used for urban planners or forest managers to decide what trees they need to plant more of.
I'm reaching and connecting with people across the world. It's just showing that I can have an impact on so many people's lives. A lot of it was seeing them put on glasses and actually look at themselves.
I think this university does a lot of really good work in making sure that we have a globally diverse and a domestically diverse curriculum and faculty, and that our students get the best education that they can get.
Never thought of myself as like a top 6 business student in the world. That's pretty cool. It's not something that was just handed to me. It's super hard work. I just want to be an inspiration to other women that I know in the business. It's super competitive. If you work really hard, that's how you're going to get noticed. If you make really good investment decisions, that's how you're going to get noticed. And then hopefully someday I'd like to run my own business, just kind of with my entrepreneurship spirit.
He tested top 5 at the position in every single drill, so I mean, it's one thing to do that when you're coming from an SEC school or Big Ten school, but he's coming from Whitewater and he just beat all those other guys.
So the reason why I chose environmental science is to inspire the younger generation to continue to provide clean water for the future.
I wanted to give a scholarship, with my name as a legacy I wanted to leave, and to be able to pay it forward and give someone else opportunity to succeed just as much as someone gave me.
I find myself being, friend, counselor, professor. I think that we can be effective when you care. And so that's where I am. I care, and I know that the students care.
I will miss the school greatly, and I feel like no other school will compete.
We're number one. Thank you. We're number one. Thank you. Thank you to our interpreters today, the Young Auditorium staff. There's donuts and coffee out there calling your name. So have a great day. You're all amazing.